Hey everybody, how you doing? Jeff here, back with another Diablo 2 Resurrected video, and in this one I wanted to cover some special properties in the game. A lot of these aren't really explained in the game, and it could be really confusing how they function, so I wanted to do kind of a quick explanation of a lot of these. So I'm going to start by actually talking about breakpoints in the game, and if you don't understand that, then you won't quite understand how some of the other things work. So first I'm going to cover that, and then talk about things like faster cast rate, increased attack speed, faster hit recovery, open wounds, crushing blow, deadly strike, and some others. So if you wanted to jump ahead to a specific topic, you can look in the description down below. I'll have some times listed, and let's go ahead and jump right into it here. So to start off here, I want to talk about breakpoints. And breakpoints are important because most of what you do is affected by this. And breakpoints exist because of how the game runs. The game runs with 2D graphics, and it runs at 25 frames per second. Every action or movement in the game takes a certain amount of frames to perform that movement and complete it. But you can improve that and speed it up through items and skills. These are affected by faster cast rate, increased attack speed, faster block rate, and faster hit recovery. So to improve these, though, you need a certain amount of that to improve it. Say, for instance, just your normal attack, your normal melee attack takes 10 frames to complete that motion. But if you put on some increased attack speed items, you want to improve that so it only takes 9 frames per swing. But to do that, you might need 30 increased attack speed on your items. Well, until you get that 30% increased attack speed, you actually won't improve to that 9 frames. If you only had 10 or 20%, it would do absolutely nothing for you. You have to reach that exact threshold or breakpoint to get to that faster frames. And the easiest way to figure this out is just to Google online. There's lots of charts online to look at all these breakpoints, and it's actually pretty complicated based on what character you're using, what skill you're using, what gear. So the easiest way is just to check out some of these charts, and it'll show you exactly the percentage you need to improve your hit recovery, your cast rate, your attack speed, or your block rate. If we take a look at a specific example here, I'm going to use my Sork here. I'm going to cast some lightning, and you can see how quickly she casts it there. And I'll throw on a Spirit Sword here. It gives me 33% faster cast rate, and we'll see. Definitely an improvement there. I think I hit a couple breakpoints. I'm looking at a chart here to see how much it would take. Here I'm going to throw my other stuff. I got a Viper Magi, I got a Spirit Shield, and then a couple rings for 10 faster cast rate. So if we go into our character tab here and then hit our advanced stats, you can look and see how much you have. So there it shows I've got 117% faster cast rate. So again, that doesn't mean I cast 117% faster than I do with nothing. It's based on those breakpoints. So as I improve that, I'm hitting several breakpoints to cast a certain number of frames faster. So according to the chart here I'm looking at online, I should be hitting, originally it was 19 frames it would take to cast lightning. Now I've got so much, 117 should get me down to exactly 12 frames, which will be a greatly increased attack speed. And you can see it looks like one long line. It's pumping out so quickly there. Now, according to the chart, I need 194% total of faster cast rate to reach the next breakpoint. So unless I can reach that, there's no reason for me to try to get more. 194 is a huge number. I would need 80 more faster cast rate. So if I put on somehow enough to get 70% more and I got to like 177% faster cast rate, that would do me absolutely no good. You have to reach the breakpoint. So again, just check out the charts. There's even calculators online that you can put in like your specific gear and how much you have of all this stuff to determine your attack speed and your cast rate, your hit recovery, and your block rate. And those are all affected by this same mechanic. So definitely check those out. Increased attack speed works similar to the faster cast rate where the breakpoints affect it, but it affects melee attacks. So if you're going to do a melee build, you want to pay attention to increased attack speed. And this is determined by your character class, what weapon type you're using. And if you mouse over them, you can see the last line of white text shows like this is an axe class, fast attack speed. Or over here, a sword class, very fast attack speed, or a polearm class, slow attack speed. And this gives you a general idea, but they do have specific values for each weapon on how quickly they attack based on the class you're playing. I've always looked on the Ariat Summit website to get my information for that. Or again, you can check out calculators online to figure out, based on your gear and skills and everything, what breakpoints you need to reach. So this is affected by your weapon class. It's affected by anything on your gear, like these gloves, for instance, are giving 20% increased attack speed. My aura, fanaticism right there, that orange aura increases my attack speed real quickly. So let's run out here real quick and just look at my attack speed. Let's say I've got fanaticism flipped off. Here's how quickly I attack with zeal. Flip on fanaticism, much faster. So all those factors play a part. Again, you can check calculators online or look at some of the charts online to figure out how much you need to reach certain breakpoints. Faster hit recovery is also affected by breakpoints. And faster hit recovery refers to any time you take a big hit from an enemy. I believe it's 1/12 or more of your max life, and your character will go through this kind of stun animation and have to recover in order to perform the next action. And that takes a certain amount of frames also. And so if you get this faster hit recovery, it will take fewer frames. You can recover quicker and be ready to move on to your next action, whether you're going to move or attack or whatever it might be. So this is especially important on characters that take a lot of hits, like my melee zealot here. So if we take a look at some of his gear here, I've got some hit recovery on helmet here, 21 hit recovery. My shield has 22 hit recovery. Charms have hit recovery. You can get 8% on large charms, 5% on small, and 12% on grand charms. And again, you can look into your character's main stats here. And there it shows I've got 56% faster hit recovery. And I know on my paladin, for instance, according to the charts online, the breakpoints for him that I'm looking for is 48%, and then the next one would be 86%. So I could actually drop 8% faster hit recovery and still be reaching my certain amount of frames that I want to get. If I wanted to improve it just one frame, I would need to get him another 30% faster hit recovery to reach that 86 breakpoint. And faster hit recovery is affected by the class you're playing also, just like the others. Even as far as like the druid, for instance, it depends if he's wielding a one-hander, a two-hander, or whether he's in bear form or wolf form. So again, check out those charts and information online, and that can be very helpful for figuring out exactly what you need to do for your character and for your build. The final one to talk about here for breakpoints is faster block rate. So this only applies if you're using a shield and can block. So if you want to go over to your character, if you look at your defense stat and tab over it, it'll show your chance to block. So right now I've got 75, which is the top, the max block that you can have is 75%. So faster block rate applies when you block an attack, your character goes through an animation and has to recover from that. And so then if you have a faster block rate increase, which is pretty rare, it's on some shields and whatnot, but then that will help you recover more quickly from that to be ready for your next action. Absorption is another property that you'll find on some pieces of gear, and this comes in two forms. It can come as a percentage or an absolute number, and I've got a couple examples here. My belt here is T-God's or Thunder God's Vigor, and the very bottom line there, plus 20 lightning absorb, so that's an example of an absolute. Or if we look at my Ravenfrost ring here, this has cold absorb 20%. And elemental damage is calculated in a specific order. So if you look over at your resistances, here's my elemental resistances. When you get hit with an attack, it will consider this first. It will use your resistances first. Then it's going to calculate off of the percentage absorb, and then it will calculate off of an absolute. So if you get a high resistance, like I've got a high lightning resist at 92% here, if I stack like a lightning percentage absorb or more lightning absolute absorb, attacks can actually heal me if you get high enough resist with those absorbs. And these two, the T-Gods and the Ravenfrost, are just a couple examples of some absorb. There's lots of pieces of gear that have different absorb on them for fire, lightning, and cold. When I'm starting out a new character, a fresh season, I like to stack T-Gods and lightsaber if I can, because lightning is super dangerous, especially from the souls that you'll find later in the game. Everybody hates those. So you throw those on with some high resist and they can't touch you. So it can be really powerful. I want to talk about cannot be frozen real quick also. This is a very important attribute to have on your character. Um, I've got it from my Ravenfrost here. The bottom line there, cannot be frozen. You can get it from other items too. Duriel Shell armor has cannot be frozen. You can make a rune word called Rhyme in a 2-socket shield that gives cannot be frozen. And this is a super important one because enemies will commonly freeze you and you're moving slower, kind of stuck there. It can easily lead to your death. So you definitely want to get cannot be frozen somewhere on your gear. Now, one thing I wanted to mention also was Holy Freeze aura, which is a paladin aura, which slows enemies down drastically. And some enemies come with this aura on, like Duriel, for instance. And if you have cannot be frozen on, this will still hit you. Holy Freeze will still slow you down. Another one I wanted to talk about was ignore target defense. This is awesome if you're having trouble hitting enemies. You know, in order to hit, you have to boost your attack rating. If you mouse over it here, you can see like I've got an 85% chance to hit that specific enemy. And if you have ignore target defense on something, it will greatly increase your chance. It doesn't mean you're always going to hit, actually. It sets enemies' defense to 0, and your level versus their level is factored in as well. But it basically guarantees a hit or almost every hit. And this comes on different weapons. For instance, the Reaper's Toll here, ignore target's defense there. Now, I don't believe it affects mercenaries. If a mercenary wields this, it will not actually apply, but if you were wielding it, it would. Lightsaber has ignore target defense. The Grief rune word has ignore target defense, super popular, super powerful. So this can be really helpful if you're having trouble hitting. You can just basically ignore attack rating. You don't have to worry about trying to stack that in order to hit enemies. And now I believe it also doesn't affect bosses. So if you go up against Baal or Diablo, I believe you go back to whatever percentage chance to hit, and ignore target defense does not affect bosses. Piercing attack refers to the chance for an attack to pass through a target and hit the next one for full damage. And this really applies to the Amazon. She actually has a passive skill called Pierce, and it shows just there your missiles have a chance to pass through enemies that they hit. And so right there, I've got it pumped up. It's giving me a 71% chance. The most common item that affects it here is the Razor Tail. Also, it says right there, piercing attack. This gives a 33% chance. So I've actually got a 100% chance to pierce and pass through the target. And then you'll find it on some bows and crossbows as well. So this is one thing that makes the Javazon so powerful for cows. Lightning Fury is awesome, but then the chance for it to just pass through cows and hit the cows behind is what makes it so powerful. Crushing Blow is a super powerful attribute, probably my favorite in the game. I use it along with my Zealot and his auras, and it just destroys. And this is a big one that people use for Ubers, the endgame event in Tristram, because it'll just tear through them. This one works kind of similarly to the Sorceress's Static Field in that it'll take a percentage off of the monster's health. So this applies to like melee attacks or ranged attacks, although ranged attacks are half as effective. And it depends if you're attacking a normal monster or a boss for what percentage of health it takes off. So if we look at my stats here, look at my detailed stats here, it shows I've got a 65% chance of crushing blow. So every time I hit with a melee attack, or I'm on my paladin, so every time I smite, I have a 65% chance of that crushing blow triggering, which will take off a big chunk of the monster's health. And this is especially effective in big games, multiplayer games, or like I mentioned, against the Ubers who have a lot of health to tear their health down very, very quickly. And Crushing Blow affects a monster's current life, not their max life. So you'll never actually kill a monster with Crushing Blow because it only affects how much life they currently have. It does a percentage of that. And it's on lots of items here. So if we look, I've got it on my boots. Gore Riders here is real common. I've got it on my Death Rune Word, a big percentage there, 50% on that. G-Face is real common to get some Crushing Blow from. You can craft some gloves that have Crushing Blow. Black rune word, strength rune word, which are lower level. So it can be fairly easy to get some crushing blow. And if you're a melee attacker, you definitely want to get some because it's super powerful. Deadly Strike is another fantastic attribute that I love to go for. This is the chance to simply do double damage. So if you look at my sheet damage here, if I have Deadly Strike trigger, it will actually do double this damage. And that's on different items as well. My Death Rune Word here has 46% Deadly Strike based on character level. Gory Riders has some Deadly Strike here, 15%. I believe G-Face does as well. And I've also got High Lords on to give Deadly Strike as well. So if we look at my character sheet here, I've actually got a huge percentage just from Death and High Lords. I've got 95% Deadly Strike, so basically every hit I'm doing double damage. And one thing I want to mention also is it does not stack with like the Barbarian or Zon crit chances. So you can't have both Deadly Strike and one of their abilities trigger for 4 times damage. It tries to roll one, and if that fails, then it will roll the other one to have a chance for that. It can stack though with a curse though. On my switch weapon, I've got Lacerator, which has a chance to cast Amplify damage. So I'll commonly, if it's a big enemy with a lot of health, I'll switch to this, Amplify damage, switch back to Death, and so then I am doing 4 times damage because of Amplify damage. And then the last one I want to mention here is Open Wounds. And this is a damage over time, or a DOT, kind of like a poison. And it works based on character level, actually. So if 2 people have open wounds on, then the higher level character will want to apply it because it will actually do more damage. Um, it's not that common on items. Probably the most common is Gore Riders, which I wear these all the time. You're going to want something like this for Ubers if you're going to do the final event, the endgame event in Tristram, because they have some crazy regen. And so if you get open wounds on, it actually nullifies a monster's health regen. So that's very important if you're going to go in and try to get yourself a torch. And that is going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you had any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I love talking about Diablo. I'm always happy to discuss it, to answer questions. If you had any tips yourself about anything or anything else to add about some of these, please add that in and help everybody out. And I will catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching.